guys, it's me, Rohan Singh, and today I'm back with another video. Now, I know that I've not made a video in a long time, 4 months to be exact. And while there isn't a big reason for this, I'll be honest, I didn't make a video because I was preparing for my exams, the term 1 exams, and the pre-board exams. So both those two exams are really important because the pre-board exams are important for the school, while the term 1 exams are important for the board. Both of them are really important, and seeing that they were coming close, like only 2-3 months away, so I just basically quit almost everything that wasn't studying and just began preparing. And as a result, I didn't have any time for making and editing videos. That takes many hours, and I just simply couldn't afford to use all those hours for doing this activity. I had to study because these are exams that I had pretty much practiced and waited all my life for. And as you all know, just looking at the channel history and all the different videos I make, most of the videos are about study, about education and things related to education. So you can know that I take this very seriously, and as a result I took a long break basically studying, and I was not able to make any videos. But now that those term 1 exams are over and I took a little break after those exams, to sort of rebound after all that studying. And now that finally given those exams, and they ended like 4 days ago on December 11th, and they started on November 30th, the term 1 exams, I can say that they went about as well as I expected, which is good. They went good. But one thing which I didn't expect with those exams, and this is why I made this video as sort of a discussion of what I thought of the exam and how did they go. They were harder than I expected. And by the way, I expected those exams to be hard. Like, I knew that CBSE had not given any real exam for like a year before. The batch before us pretty much got off without giving any board exam. They were simply passed on due to their school marks and their school pre-boards and their school internal assessments. Basically, no board exam was taken. And I was prepared for that. I prepared accordingly for that initiative. But the thing was that the exams came even harder than I originally thought. Plus, there were some errors made on the CBSE side as well, which I'll get into later. And I've personally given all the exams. I think I'll get an overall percentage above 90% in these exams. And that, considering the difficulty of these exams, while I did expect a higher percentage, before, considering the difficulty of these exams, I think that is still good enough. And I've met many of my friends over the course of this entire exam, and I must say that all of them were as surprised as I was, even more, most of them, since they expected a hard paper, not as hard as the one CBSE made. The first exam we gave was Social Studies, SST. That one was filled with errors, especially the answer sheet. If that answer sheet is official. I'm not saying it is official, but again, nobody has contested it, and as far as I know, nobody is giving us any official answer sheets. So that is the one which we have. I'll put that answer sheet above over here. But just looking at that answer sheet, I can tell you that there are so many wrong answers in that answer sheet that it just sort of depresses a student. I remember after coming from the SST exam, giving it, and I felt pretty confident that it went really well. But when I looked at this answer sheet, I found like 3 or 4 errors, and most of those errors were errors which I'm pretty sure are correct on my side but wrong on the answer sheet side. Basically, they were marked wrong in the answer sheet. Now, CBSE has not actually given any official answer sheets, but they have not said that this answer sheet is wrong. So they're quiet, they are very vague, they are quiet, they have not said anything. Nobody has come out to say anything. Nobody knows who's producing these answer sheets. And if you have given the exams, you're pretty familiar with this situation. But if you have not, let me sort of give you a brief. So in these exams, the term 1 exams were MCQ based. Earlier, the board exams, we used to give them at the end of the year. They had the full syllabus, but this time for the COVID batch, or the 2021 to 2022 batch, CBSE has divided the syllabus into 2 halves. One half is term 1 and the other half is term 2. Term 1 happened from November 30th to December 11th, while term 2 will happen somewhere in March to April. Nobody knows the specific date. CBSE will release them later. But the exam which we gave was term 1, and term 1 was supposed to be, unlike term 2, an all-out MCQ exam, sort of like the SAT which I've talked about earlier. It's just MCQ. You have to fill it on an OMA sheet, circle with a dark pen, the option which you think is correct and right, the option on a box there. So basically it confirms which option you think is correct, and the answer sheet which the invigilators or the teachers or CBSE will have will basically use to check how many answers you have which are correct, and on them the marks will be given out of 40. An additional 10 marks will be added later from the internal assessments which have been taken at your school, but that is a separate thing. We are just talking about the term 1 exam here, not the internal assessment. So I've told you what the term 1 exam was like. It's about, let's talk about the real thing. How were the question papers? The social science paper with me, this was mostly pretty good. However, there's some questions which I think are wrong. Now this is the first paper which we gave on 30th November. It was of either moderate difficulty, just that. Now it was not easy at all. None of the papers which we gave were easy. They were either moderate or difficult. It really did depend. So this paper was more on the moderate side. I gave mostly correct answers. There were 3 or 4 which were incorrect from what I've seen from the answer sheet which is posted above. This is according to this answer sheet. This is unofficial. CBSE has not given out any CBSE, the official one which makes the official organization which makes the board exam, specifically term 1. They have not given out any specific answer sheets. However, these do come, well, we don't know what source they come from. They just come randomly. They are forwarded and everybody seems to have the same thing. So, but CBSE has not come out and said anything against these answer sheets. So we really were left in the dark. This is the only thing we have. So according to this, there are so many wrong answers in this, so many things which were controversial to say the least. If you have studied the class 10 SST syllabus, specifically the chapter Nationalism in Europe, then you'll know that this question is incorrect. But if you haven't, then you won't really understand. And that question is question number 25, which I'll put over here. This question, the answer of this question should be B, but it is written as A. This question is just incorrectly phrased, and anyone who's actually read the chapter will know the correct answer is B, as both of these sentences are true, yes, but R is not the correct explanation of A. If this question was phrased correctly, so the answer would be A, the reason should be in place of the assertion and the assertion should be in place of the reason. Then A would make sense, but it is the opposite. So this would not make sense, and B is the correct option. This was one of the questions which raised a lot of controversy. I hope CBSE will change it if the answer sheet is true. Now let's come to the second paper which we gave, the science paper. Now this paper, even though it is quite difficult and tricky, I actually liked it a lot. This is a really well made paper. Well, for me it is, of course, since this went really well. The science exam went really well, and this paper was mostly pretty good. Majority of the questions I got correct. I'll get easily over 90% in this, but there is one question here which has a mistake which by all means should be trivial, and that mistake is and again the answer sheet is given over here, and that mistake is question number 32, which will be shown here, and that is burning of natural gas is an endothermic process. Methane gas combines with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide and water. And again, if you have done the science syllabus for term 1, you should know the answer to this is by all means D, since assertion is false and reason is true. That is because burning of natural gas is an exothermic reaction, a reaction which emits heat. It releases heat, not a reaction which absorbs heat like endothermic is. Here burning of natural gas is an endothermic process is written. That means that assertion is false and reason is true, thus making the option D. But here in the answer key it is written C, which means that A is true but R is false, and that is just wrong. By all means, this is written in the NCERT, the official book itself, so CBSE should by all means correct it, and it is impossible that this won't be corrected. The math exam. Now this exam was also pretty good, but here's one thing which many other people alongside many of the toppers agree with me as well, and that opinion is that this paper wasn't a 90-minute paper. You see, the duration of term 1 exams is 1 hour 30 minutes, 90 minutes. But the paper which they gave was not a 90-minute paper for math. This paper should have at least been a 22-hour paper. 120 minutes basically, because the questions which were given here were very lengthy. It's like the people who made this exam didn't themselves check the time limit and see if anyone could actually solve this. The average student can actually solve this paper in like 90 minutes, because it's not possible. They put 2 to 3 marker questions in 1 marker questions. That just does not make any sense. This is because in the math exam all the MCQ questions are of 1 mark, but it's like they took out 2 to 3 markers questions, the questions which are big and are suited for 2 to 3 marks, they put it in 1 mark, which is just a dumb decision which I didn't expect such a big organization to make. And as a result, since the time was so low and the questions were so big, especially section B, section A and section C were fine. Like, I could agree that those were well made. Those were questions which you could solve within the time limit. But section B was the one where many people made many guesses. They made many errors. In section B was basically the place where all the questions which were of high difficulty, which took a lot of time to calculate, were placed for a 90-minute exam, of which each question should be of 1 mark. 2 to 3 markers were given questions, and that is a really dumb decision. As a result, many students could not solve the paper in time. Some guessed even half their paper, but basically almost everyone had to make 5 or 6 guesses in the end for this paper. And as a result, I think many people will get lower marks in math than all the other papers, excluding one which we'll get to towards the end. Now let's talk about the Hindi paper. This one was also fine. I mean, like, I don't really how can I say it? Well, I like Hindi. It's a good subject, but it's not much of importance to me. Like, I don't really give that much importance to this, but it went quite well, way better than I thought it would go. But there are many mistakes in the Hindi paper as well. I won't really get into them since it doesn't really matter to me. I'm pretty sure these will get fixed, as they're pretty obvious in the answer sheet for Hindi, and I'm pretty sure many other people have already talked about it, so I'm not really going to get that much into it. But the paper which comes after this, which is of English, has so many errors, it is actually scary. Now the final term 1 exam which we gave, which was the English term 1 exam, which we actually just wrote like 4 days ago on December 11th, which was the last date, was generally either a medium to hard difficulty level, and many people agree with me that if the answer sheet for this exam, which is over here, if this answer sheet is indeed the official and true one, which will be used to judge and mark our paper, then people will get a very, very bad marks or grade in their English, something which in their English paper, something which they haven't got at all. And I agree with this, because looking at this answer sheet, I have 6 to 7 errors, even though by all means I should only have 3 to 4. This English paper is really sort of scary, because the answer sheet is so wrong in so many places. There are like 7 to 8 mistakes in the answer sheet, and out of those 7 to 8 mistakes, for example, there is question number 7. The answer to this should by all means be B. How could A be the assertion and B the response to A? It does not make sense. If you've actually read the passage which comes of this and which all these questions are based on, this is entirely false and does not make any sense. We have other questions like question 10, in which it states any glimmering of civilization. Glimmering in the above expression has been used as a metaphor. Glimmering stands for, it should be A, a slight suggestion, and not B, a great hope. How could glimmering, a glimmer of hope, when people say a glimmer of hope, how could they mean a great hope of hope? It does not make any sense. And even if you've read the passage, the answer A still makes sense in context of the passage. B, which is given in the answer sheet, does not make sense, so that's another wrong answer. There's so many of these, but I'm just going for the more notable ones. Like this English exam answer sheet was something which many people were mad about. I remember on Twitter there's so many people tweeting about it. And then there is question number 11, which the answer should be either B or C, like it is given for another question, which I'll just highlight over here. Plus, this is an objective paper. The answer should be objective and be only one answer. It should only be one answer out of 4. Why are there 2 answers? Like, this does not make any sense. What were they thinking when they made this paper? And there are other questions like in question number 30, if you've done any literature assignments, you know that the correct closing of letter is always yours faithfully and not yours truly. It's not yours truly is not used in any letter I've seen and any English book I've read for the CBSE class 10 exam. It is always used yours faithfully. and I'm pretty sure I'll share a photo of the textbook which I found, which always state yours faithfully is used along with one other, but that option was not given. So yours faithfully is the only one which is valid here. How is it yours truly? This does not make sense. And this was question number 35, and this was, Maddie was A, poor and proud, B, poor so sympathetic, C, poor and sympathetic, and D, timid so fun loving. Can anyone explain to me what was the thought process of the person who made this paper? One, the real problem with this B and with the real problem with the options is B and C. One option is B, poor so sympathetic, and the option C is poor and sympathetic. What is the difference? One is poor and sympathetic, and the other is poor so sympathetic. A person who has done CBSE exams knows that this does not make any sense, and you know what the answer is? It is B, poor so sympathetic, poor and sympathetic. Like, anyone who has actually read the passage, and many people, including many of the toppers I have talked about, all of them have done 35C. What is the difference here? One just sounds very informal and the other formal. Like, both are the same. One is poor and sympathetic, when the other is poor so sympathetic. One is exaggerated and one is not exaggerated. What should I choose here? What do you want? This does not make any sense. Nothing like this was given in the passage at all. The passage is completely unrelated, and yeah, this was just weird. And the answer to question number 43. Now, question number 43 does not make sense, as in the poem it is not written by killing their cattle. Nothing is given a reference to the tiger to terrorizes the villages, as nowhere in the poem is it written why the tiger terrorizes the village. It is not written anywhere. It could be any of these options. Like, if you actually read the passage over here, which is given here, nowhere does it state why the tiger hunts. It is not given anywhere. Again, can't CBSE understand this? This is an objective paper. There has to be one answer, not all of these. Any of these can be answered, like pretty much by killing their cattle. True, it can be the answer, as he does not like to be hunted. True, tigers do not like to be hunted. Very few people do. As they have cleared his habitat. True, since they have cleared his habitat and he does not have anywhere else to go, so he terrorizes the village. Since it is so close to the forest, or it is in the forest, it makes sense logically, as he got tired of being in the forest. I mean, this is not necessarily true, but it can be there in the poetic sense, I guess. But the answer to this, most likely and most logically, most people did it as C, as they have cleared his habitat. You know, the poems has many aligning themes with humans who have troubled nature and wildlife, so this makes sense, you know, but nowhere does this actually state by killing their cattle, and that is the answer give according to the answer sheet, which which is unofficial. But again, this is the only thing we've got. But by all means, the answer should be C. As many people have done this makes the most sense alongside the themes of the poem. Like, anyone who has read it will understand this. So question 43 is another problem, and another problem is question number 59. And it was quite pleasant working for Anil, as he was quite rich, he was never complained, he was a very simple person, he could be easily fooled. All these questions, question A is wrong, so that is not the answer. But the answer given in the answer key is B, which is also wrong, since nowhere in the book it's not referenced that it was easy working for Anil because he never complained. It is always written because Anil was a very simple person. This should be the answer. C should be the answer, but in the answer sheet it is written B. And many people, including any person who has read again the story, will say that the answer should be C. He was a very simple person. It is written and emphasized so many times in the story that Anil was a very simple person. Yeah guys, that was my overall review and sort of analysis of the term 1 papers. You know, by looking at this you might think that they did not go well, but it was quite the opposite. They went well, even with all of this and many other outside external factors which made the thing even more difficult. And the reason for that is entirely due to hard work, dedication, and just working. And even though these papers could have gone a lot better, you know, due to many other things, I am quite happy with them and I'm mostly satisfied with them. Again, thank you guys for watching. Comment down below how your term 1 exams went if you gave them, and goodbye.